realized that Vitalik Buterin had bought some Anon, specifically exactly the amount of Anon required to be able to post anonymously and essentially use your app. What was that like for you as a builder?
Yeah, that was insane. Like I thought, I was like so excited because like I think like as someone who's been building in the space, like the dream is that Vitalik is using your app. Like that's like the one person that you want to get to try to use your app. I mean, literally when it's on Ethereum, right? So yeah, I was like super excited. Like it's funny because like the token price stuff like that matters second to me. Like I was just more excited that like this legitimate person who like big fan of who's like using your app is like insane. The reason Vitalik probably bought this is that he would not trust anyone to relay a message from him, right? Because like he's very on edge about like privacy, and for him like something that is ZK based is better because like there's no way to trace it back to him. Curious like what he's posted, but too bad no one can know.
Yo, yo, grab your headphones, get ready to vibe. ZEROPOD is coming at you when we're doing it live with ZEROPOD. Yo, I said ZEROPOD, yo, ZEROPOD.
Thought it would be pretty neat to get you on to talk about everything that's been happening with the Anoncast, and I am going to say it like that. I've heard some people calling it Anoncast, and I can't bring myself around to that pronunciation. How do you say it?
I kind of flip back and forth. Like I haven't committed to anything yet. It's like I mean I think I've like mostly been saying Anoncast because
Yeah,
but like it's so weird because like that like word just like anon is like not something I ever actually like say to
I
anyone.
know.
Like
You
it's like
type
something
it. You
I,
type
I
it.
type it and I read it, but like it's always
Yeah,
in my head and it's like it's been so weird just like saying like the
it's
last few
so true.
weeks.
Yeah, you don't want to put the emphasis on the wrong syllable, so we have to decide
Yeah,
which one's the right one. I'm not
yeah.
even joking. Like when I was preparing for this episode, I was literally like on the Collier's website, being like, "What is the correct pronunciation for anon or anon?" And they agreed with me. They said it was anon, so I'm going to go with anon and anoncast. But if you're listening and that's not your preferred pronunciation, that's okay. We can still be friends. So.
It's the GIF and GIF all over again.
That's right, which we all know it's skiff, but that's okay. Welcome back to ZeroPod, a zero copyright video podcast about enjoying Ethereum. Today I'm excited to welcome Kartik Patel, the developer behind a consumer ZK social app that has been making waves this month, ever since one Vitalik Buterin decided to try it out for himself. It's called Anoncast, and I'm excited to dig in with Kartik to hear about his own journey that led us to this point and what's coming next for Anons on chain. Welcome to ZeroPod, Kartik.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Amazing to have you here. Those who are familiar with this pod know that we always like to take a pretty personal tact, start by learning a little bit about our guest before we dig into the current things. So if you're comfortable, I'd love to hear a little bit about the Kartik story. Like where did you grow up? What was young Kartik like? What did you get into?
Let's see. I grew up in Jersey, suburbs. Nothing too special there. Growing up, I just played a lot of games, so that was like my main thing, and that's how I kind of got into coding as well. Um, I specifically since like middle school have been modding tons of games. It's kind of funny because I feel like a lot of people, like a lot of really good developers, like kind of get into it by just like hacking and modding games from early on. And so yeah, I did that for RuneScape specifically a lot, and then kind of transitioned into Minecraft. I ran a server, made some money off of it. It was a fun time throughout middle school and high school. Um, Went to college at Rutgers, so still in New Jersey. Kind of just lived there until I moved to New York. Um, there, yeah, I majored in computer engineering. Actually, funnily enough, I also have an electrical engineering degree. So, like, I wanted to, for a long time, I wanted to do hardware. And then kind of at some point decided, wow, it's much nicer to just sit in front of my computer and just like write code, and decided that that's what I wanted to do.
Well, there's kind of a hardware renaissance happening right now, but yeah, it's definitely a different beast altogether.
Yeah, yeah, I realized that I'm very happy in my space in front of my computer and monitors, and that's yeah, that's what I wanted to do. Um, so like going back on, I was like since I was like a big gamer, I also like played some games competitively, and like in college, I actually built the analytics platform for this game called Rocket League, and so that was like my first kind of startup experience because like I built the platform and I sold it to another company a few years later, so that kind of helped me have some college money to spend.
Amazing. And did you just decide to do that on your own? Like it was just a hobby that you kind of turned into something?
Yeah, it was just for fun, and then like somehow got some value out of it. People enjoyed it, and then eventually like there was a good amount of users. So
Cool. So you went to college, you got your degrees, and then what was your first forays out of college?
yeah, so I just worked as a typical like software engineer at a big company. I like during college I got really into crypto actually, mostly just trading and like trying to make money, and then like kind of got deeper at like it's funny because like that my introduction to it was like making money because like I just like the speculation part was just fun.
Yeah, many such cases, by the way.
Yeah, and then like as like I got that kind of like hooked me in, and then like the tech kind of made me like actually like wow, this is pretty cool. And so kind of just like followed along for a few years, and then like while working my big tech job, I around like DeFi summer is when I really got into crypto, like the actual like tech part of it, because I thought like finally there was like something interesting happening with all these financial primitives being built. And so like I was spending like 2 hours a day working at my job, and like the whole other part just like hacking on open source projects or like building things. I was building a lending protocol for a bit with some people, and then like 2021 hit, and like I was like already like deep into NFTs, like buying and trading and selling them. And then like as like the market started to pick up, I decided I just wanted to jump into crypto full time and joined OpenSea in 2021.
So you went to work for OpenSea in the middle of all the froth of the 2021 NFT season. That must have been pretty crazy. What was that like?
Yeah, that was insane. So I joined OpenSea before kind of like the bull market really took off. So like it was like early summer 2021, and like August is when like things really kind of went wild. And so like I just joined, like I was like, oh, this will be kind of fun hacking, like chilling on like building some crypto stuff. And then all of a sudden it was just like everything's on fire. And so like it was like very quickly went to like I was like working like 12, 16 hours a day. I wouldn't trade it though. I thought like I learned so much, met so many people, and like I I don't know, it was just a lot of fun, and I really miss like those long days because like uh at the start at least like OpenSea, like we had this like core like group of employees who like were pretty good friends with each other, and like it was just like fun like working really closely with all these people, and like everything's like great but also like great because we're like seeing success, but also bad because it's like burning, but like you have motivation to like fix things as like fast as possible. So
It's like with
yeah,
a lot of things in crypto where you're basically building the plane as you're flying it, right?
yeah,
Yeah, once things
yeah,
go
that's fine.
crazy.
Yeah, the market was insane at the time.
So when did you make the decision to leave OpenSea, and where did you go from there?
So I was at OpenSea for like almost 2 years. I left May 2023. So I kind of like saw the whole bull market, like saw the entire ride up, and then also saw the entire ride down with OpenSea, which is wild because it was like not even 2 years, and like we saw all of this happen. So I left May 2023. I ended up joining Manifold. I was pretty good friends with the founders there, and uh, they convinced me to join. So I was there for basically the rest of 2023, and then basically last year I left to start my own thing.
Very cool. Well, how was your time at Manifold? Was it a little bit slower pace than OpenSea was, or a little different?
Yeah, I mean, it was different. The team was smaller. Things were less mature because they were like in an earlier phase of the company, and then also like yeah, things were slower, but it wasn't because it was Manifold. It was like just the NFT market
The
was
bear
just
market.
like slow.
Yeah.
So
I know.
there wasn't much going on.
Awesome. And when you say you left Manifold to start your own thing, what did that mean? Did you have an idea that you wanted to follow, or did you just kind of want to feel it out and see where things landed?
Yeah, mostly just feel it out. Like I just wanted to like, I don't know, like just hack on different projects and see what's interesting and see if I could build something up from the ground, from ground up.
So what was your favorite project that you hacked on in that period? Sort of late last year, I guess.
So I left. So I left late, like last December. So basically like a year
December?
ago.
Okay.
I didn't really start until like February because I got married basically a year ago, and then went
Congrats.
and so like thanks, yeah. So I kind of just like took it easy for 2 months. Also, like I was like for like the last 3 years between OpenSea and Manifold, I was like working so much, so I just like took like basically 2 months off.
You got to take some time off and secure the bag, right?
Yeah, and then so like February, I started building a Farcaster client called Nook, and so that's probably like the main thing I've shipped until recently.
If we can maybe rewind just a little bit, I'd like to actually hear, when you first heard about Farcaster, because you have been a pretty, big builder on the Farcaster protocol, both with Nook and then with Anoncast as well. Love to hear sort of how you first found out about Farcaster, how you joined, and what your thoughts are on Farcaster in general.
Yeah, I don't even remember how I found out about it. Probably just saw something on like my Twitter feed. I joined like over 2 years ago now, and I didn't really start using it until like last summer, like not this summer, like summer 2023. I basically like the thing that really kind of brought me back was when Farcaster like had a plan to go permissionless for like signups, is when I kind of got more interested, because like until then it was like kind of just centralized to just Warpcast, and so there was a much different.
That's what caught my eye as well. And around that time too, the nouns community moved there, all sort of in droves, and so I kind of got pulled over with the rest of the nouns community, and it was that permissionlessness that sort of brought us into the fold. But
yeah, I like Farcaster. I'm very bullish on its position. I think like the branding is a little bit wrong in that like I don't think like the fact that it's quote unquote decentralized matters. Like I think like that's kind of like a lame reason to use Farcaster, but like people like to use that reason. I think like the more interesting thing is the fact that like Dan has been posting about this, and Six specifically has like kind of started this around Farcaster being a programmable social network. And I think that's way more interesting.
I thought you were going to say the other thing, which I also think is more compelling, which is that Farcaster is a mini economy or a proving ground economy. What do you think about that narrative?
I think that's also good. I think that kind of goes hand in hand with being programmable, like a programmable social network that's built on financial rails, which is crypto, right? So I think that goes hand in hand. And yeah, I think that narrative itself is like much more interesting than, oh, it's sufficiently decentralized. Like that.
Funny enough, it's like, it's actually the exact same issue that Ethereum has, and that's getting debated around. How do you fix the Ethereum narrative, which is that people don't really care about the main selling point of Ethereum, which might be that it's the most decentralized crypto network, but it's really more about the collaboration and the building blocks and the Legos and the programmability of the money, right? So yeah, very similar problems.
Yeah, I think the other thing that's really what I like about Farcaster a lot is I think Dan really did a good job at seeding like the initial user base, and like I called many of the people that were like or early on Farcaster my friends, and like they're really like really good builders, really good energy, and I think like that. I saw someone jokingly say that like Farcaster is like the Silicon Valley of crypto, but like it kind of does feel like that, where there's like a lot of different people working on different projects, and we're all sharing and helping each other, which is really interesting to see. I feel like there's not a space like this anywhere else.
Yeah, going back to your point too about like sufficient decentralization not being the right narrative. I mean, you just kind of proved that point out by what you just said. Like the success of Farcaster is really largely dependent on the fact that it was curated from a very young age. Like Dan picked who could join early on. It wasn't like a open, decentralized free for all, right? So something to be said, a lesson in there for sure. So you're a big fan of the Farcaster protocol, but what made you want to build an alternate client? So for those who are not familiar with Farcaster, maybe you could just explain the difference between the protocol and the app Warpcast, and then why you decided to build Nook.
Yeah, so the protocol is decentralized. Anyone can read and write from the protocol. The client is basically how you interface with it. So you're mostly familiar with Warpcast. For me, I did it like it was February like this year, and I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, and I thought that was just a good starting point. I know I wanted to build a mobile app, and I know I wanted to build something consumer social, and I didn't know exactly what the thing was, but I felt like if I built a Farcaster mobile client, like I could at least pick up skills that could help me in the future around these things. And I also had like an idea around like potentially like evolving it into like a more crypto native on-chain client where like at the end of when I stopped working on Nook, we had like a kind of like an interface style like transaction and token feed that like showed your Farcaster following or like the Farcaster social graph embedded into it. So like Cody bought this token and it's like directly in your
not financial advice. Not financial advice.
Yeah. And so yeah, yeah, it's kind of like interested in blending like Farcaster and more on chainness. But yeah,
which is interesting.
It's yeah.
It was maybe before its time too, in a way, because it wasn't really until the bull market heated up that even interface started to see a lot of adoption.
Yeah, I agree. I like eventually I stopped doing it because like I felt like I was trending in a direction that was like away from onboarding more people and more towards just catering to the existing user base. And ultimately, like I want to build something that isn't just like the same 1,000 people using the same product that they also use. Like right now, it's like a very like small group of people that are using the exact same products over and over again. And so like I wanted to build something that like expands. Yeah, I mean, I think I just didn't see like a path forward to like onboarding more people. Like I think like we were kind of like if I continued working on it, like I was kind of locked into like building for the existing crypto community or the existing Farcaster community or like the overlap between them versus like going and getting someone that isn't using any of these things to use it, right? So I thought it was I think it was the right decision because like I've done more interesting things afterwards, but like yeah, it just didn't like make sense to continue in my mind.
Interesting. Yeah. So in this space, you kind of never know what you might hack on next or what might capture your attention. And so maybe that brings us into the Anoncast era. And I'd love to hear a little bit about, what made you, well, first of all, actually, if you could just give us a quick synopsis of the lore of the Anon token and Anoncast for our listeners, because it is kind of confusing. It runs pretty deep, and you did a great job on your previous pod appearance sort of explaining. Can you explain for our listeners sort of the lore behind the Anon token and then Anoncast?
Yeah, I'll try to do my best. It's so complicated.
It is.
I was like before I started, like I was trying to explain to my wife like all this, and she was just like I don't understand.
They tried,
okay, so,
but it's
yeah. Okay, so there's a Farcaster account called Super Anon, which is an anonymous posting account for the Supercast client. And then there's also a token launcher on Farcaster called Clanker, where you can just launch meme coins directly through the feed. Someone, nobody knows who, launched meme coin through Clanker using the Super Anon account called Anon, and a token was born. This happened overnight while Woj, the creator of Supercast, was sleeping. He woke up. He kind of didn't want anything to do with the token. And so there was like kind of like a super anon token battle for the next few days. There was another anon token that Woj launched of his own. That's now like the dog token. And yeah, over the next few days, like people were kind of confused about what to do, and then eventually kind of settled on like super like the anon token kind of like being like a CTO community takeover of it, and Woj was super supportive of that. Actually, a lot of people in the anon token community like spent a lot of their like personal time going to different like exchanges and wallets and like getting the super part of the token name dropped so that there was like no affiliation with super anon, just like because like Woj didn't want anything to do with it and to like respect his like wishes of not confusing like the brands.
Yeah, I was personally pretty interested in Anon from early on, and that whole drama between Super Anon and Anon was interesting because I totally understood where Woj was coming from, because when you're building something, it's so difficult when someone launches a token that you don't control. And, you know, that has happened many more times since, actually, with Clanker, with people just kind of like opportunistically launch these tokens based on other people's brand. Maybe one of the perils of open source in some ways. But so I understood where he was coming from, but at the same time, there was just like this earnest community that was forming around the meme, which is what meme coins are about. And I in an early, like maybe day 2 of that, I was the one that originally posted my Foconomics post, which was like, let's try to like repair the tokenomics and like give a donation back to Woj that he can hopefully distribute to his users, and as kind of like a penance and to make everybody happy. So I thought that was really interesting. And I think like seeing the amount of people that piled in and donated from their own stack to sort of make that happen was interesting to watch as well.
Yeah, I agree. I also like personally was not involved in any of this. Like I did not even know the token launch until many days later. Like my personal involvement came in like after like the community takeover kind of happened, and like I heard from people like they made amends with Woj, and then I was just like, then I kind of like went back and kind of caught up with like what is going on, like what is all this stuff I missed for the past few days, because like I was like I mean like just personally like I wasn't even on Farcaster for the last 2-ish months, because like I was just heads down building like products, so like I was just like a ghost, and then I came back to like all this and I was just like, what is going on? And then like,
so how do you come from that like confusion, trying to catch up, to now you're building the client that everyone's kind of rallying around? It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I think like personally, I just saw a lot of excitement around it, around like the token specifically, and like people are trying to figure out like what to do with it. And I saw actually like Kugasha, like who did 33 bits, like was one of these people like posted like, hey, we can fork 33 bits to have like an Anoncast ZK client. And then I was just like, that seems pretty interesting. And I was just kind of seeing if someone else would do it, and nobody else kind of was like willing to do it. And so I was just like, I was working on my thing for like 2 months, like basically like many hours per day. I was just like, I kind of just want to break. Like I wanted to break from that, and like this seems like, oh, it'll probably take a few hours, and so like I spent a few hours doing it. It
Famous
worked.
Last words.
Yeah, it worked. We launched it, and then like it kind of just took off from there. And so it's kind of like I fell into just building this by accident. It's like I wasn't like right place, right time. It wasn't like I was like going and trying to find like a thing to like going and trying to find a use case for Anon or anything. Like it's someone else had the idea. I just like
you didn't raise a venture round for it. That's
yeah.
Before
I wasn't even the one with the idea. Like Kugasha posted about it. I just built it and then like kind of just started iterating on it after that, which is like a really interesting position. Like I personally didn't even own, like I didn't own like Anon from like when it was like first launched. Like I put my own money into it when I like started building it, and then like that's just what I'm rolling with now, which is like I feel like you don't really see like people building products. This is like a really interesting like story for like maybe potential future products, is like the product kind of came second after the token community formed, and like that's I feel like that's really interesting, and I don't think you like necessarily see that a lot.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And that's one of the things I was going to ask you about is sort of this whole concept of lore, which is something that I'm kind of personally obsessed with. It's one of the things that actually attracted me to Nouns originally, is just like Nouns is such a great community for building lore. And I think that's what's given it such staying power as a community and as a project. And that's also what attracted me to Anon. It was like, yes, you could call it drama or whatever, but like this whole story about how it came to be, and the fact that you weren't involved from early on. You didn't get like a token allocation from day one, but you're still building on this thing because you believe in it. Can you speak to that a little bit about how that sort of lore might be like the future of bootstrapping projects?
Yeah, I think there's definitely like some like I think it's gonna take a few iterations for like these types of things to like figure out what's ideal. But like right now, like it was really interesting to me, like how this is me trying to like talk about me in like third person, and like how would I view myself as like someone that's building this is like I don't like I'm really curious like what specifically motivated me at the time to like start building this, right? Like from my perspective, it's like, I just wanted I just wanted like a break from the thing I was working on and just like hack on something else. But from like an outer perspective, it's probably more that like there was a token community that was energized, that was looking for basically someone to do some work for them. And I would like, it's not like I was necessarily rewarded for it directly. Like obviously I had to put my own, like I had to have skin in the game, right? And then like from that, I was able to reward myself. It's very, I don't know, it's like a very interesting position. But I think there's like something there around like basically bootstrapping communities around ideas first, and then like basically paying someone to build paying someone to build something for it after.
Yeah, and also the fact that tokens have like this intrinsic ability to measure attention as well.
Yeah, and I think like if I have to also look back, like I think the interesting thing is like Anon itself, like I could look at volume charts and market cap and whatever, but like that, I don't think that would have really motivated me as much to build on it. I think what really was like the clicking factor, and this is like shout out to Interface, is actually the people that were a part of that community, right? Because like these people from Farcaster or Twitter, and the reputation they have, and like if they're giving it attention, then there's probably something like interesting to build around that, versus like if it was just like a bunch of like 0x whatever wallet addresses, like that doesn't mean as much, right? But if it's like, oh, Toady, his Farcaster handle is on like Interface and he owns this much and he's talking about it, like that means way more. So I think like the social aspect of it kind of like helped enhance like why would you do this, right?
Yeah, I think that's very true. I want to talk about the fateful day, I guess, a couple of weeks ago now at this point, when you probably tuned into Interface, speaking of Interface, and realized that Vitalik Buterin had bought some Anon, specifically exactly the amount of Anon required to be able to post anonymously and essentially use your app. What was that like for you as a builder?
Yeah, that was insane. Like I was like so excited because like I think like as someone who's been building in the space, like the dream is that Vitalik is using your app. Like that's like the one person that you want to get to try to use your app. I mean, literally when it's on Ethereum, right? So yeah, I was like super excited. Like it's funny because like the token price stuff, like that matters second to me. Like I was just more excited that like this legitimate person who like big fan of, but like who's yeah, who's like using your app is like insane.
He also knows what he's doing too. Like he knows that even buying 0.08 ETH, what's going to happen when he does that. And so he's, making an educated decision to be like, I want to support what these people are building by clicking this button right now and trying it, which I thought was cool.
Yeah, That was awesome. I'm curious, like what he's posted, but that no one can know.
That's right. No one can do. On that note, actually, can you maybe explain, what is ZK privacy? Because I know a lot of people will be watching and they'll be like, well, what's the difference between this and like coin fashions on Twitter or using super anon? What does ZK matter? What are zero knowledge proofs? And how is it that no one can possibly know whether Vitalik has or hasn't posted and what he's posted?
Yeah. So, I mean, the way it works is like, if you want to post something, you have to connect your wallet that holds your 5K Anon balance. And then on your device, whether it's your phone or your computer, we generate what's called a proof that basically takes the message you want to say, has a signed message from your wallet, and then generates this like long piece of data that basically proves that you, whoever you are with this amount of balance, has said this thing that wants to be posted on the account. And then on our server, we don't have any identifying information. It's just like, yes, this person, yes, someone with this amount of balance has said this post. And as long as that's that, like, yes, this is someone that has enough balance, we just post that. And we don't have any information on who that person is. It's just whether they own enough or not.
So even if you wanted to, you couldn't reveal someone else's identity, if they posted something. That's cool. Why do you think that matters? Like we talk a lot about decentralization and maybe like sufficient decentralization. Why is sufficient privacy not sufficient? Why is ZK so important from the standpoint of privacy?
Yeah, I think for privacy it's different because like it's like if there's any, and like we know this from like Web2 companies, is like if there's any small amount of like data that can be extracted, it will be extracted. And so like there's probably people, and like we've already seen like some like hot posts, hot takes that like would not ever post this. It's like literally just for their own brain, like their own thoughts. Because they want to keep it just to themselves, but they're open to sharing that if it's in no way retraceable to them. Versus like, yeah, if there's sufficient privacy, then you're still trusting someone that they will not share this. And maybe that's okay for you, but like I think there's people that have like different levels of like trust thresholds that they're willing to like play by. Like, for example, the reason Vitalik probably bought this is that he would not trust anyone to relay a message from him, right? Because like he's very on edge about like privacy, and for him, like something that is ZK based is better because like there's no way to trace it back to him.
I think that's a good point to maybe ask you to explain the mechanism of how the app works. So if people are listening to this and they've never used Anoncast before, can you explain sort of how it works? What do you need to do to post? How does curation work? Because there's a lot of confusion I've seen around curation. And can you explain that mechanism?
Yeah, so I'll say this is how it works today. Things are changing like literally every few hours, every day. Yeah, so like by the time someone sees this, it might already diverged quite a bit.
Well, yeah, we'll have to get this episode out pretty quick. That's a good point, because otherwise this won't even be relevant to people listening. But
but anyway, like the way it works right now is like it's based on the Anon token holdings. So there's different requirements based on different holdings. The basic requirement is hold 5,000 Anon, and you can post any message you want to Anoncast, which gets posted to a raw feed on Farcaster. For people that have 2 million tokens, they're able to promote any post that they want. It doesn't have to be their own. They can promote other people's posts and cross-post it basically to Twitter and a curated Farcaster account. The reason like we have this like raw and curation model is like, first of all, like if you're doing an anonymous post app, it's gonna just have crap on it. Like people are just gonna post whatever they want. Like maybe it's not like nice things, but like ultimately like, it's just going to devolve into like just degeneracy. And so like the raw feed is nice because that is uncensorable. Like post whatever you want. It's going to just go to Farcaster. and people don't have like people can mute the account. They don't have to see it if they don't want to, right? With the curated account, it's really nice is because like people that are not posting but are just wanting to consume this content, they don't want to see everything. They don't want to see like 10 messages an hour from like that's like mostly probably not relevant to them. What they do want to see is like the good content, like good posts, and so the curation step kind of helps basically filter like the noise out and like only like elevate like the good content, both to Farcaster and to the Twitter account. Um, and the reason why the curation thing is also nice is like it's not the ideal system where like whales basically control what gets promoted, and this is going to change. But for now, like it was nice because like the incentive from large token holders is to promote good content and not promote bad content, because ultimately like the value of the token is most likely associated with the value of the account and like the brand associated with it.
Goes back to that the intrinsic connection between the token and the attention that the app gets as well. Awesome. Yeah, thanks for breaking that down. You sort of implied a little bit that some of these things are changing. Can you tell us a little bit about the plans for changing that curation mechanism and what that will look like?
Like, yeah, I think like a lot of people have like suggested, and a lot like there's been discussions going on about moving this to more of like a weighted system. So like anyone with any anon balance is able to basically upvote content, and like the upvote is weighted proportional to how much they hold. And so like if you hold more, maybe past a certain threshold, you can automatically curate like today, but like maybe like a group of people with less balance can like independently upvote content, making it more decentralized in a sense.
More like a ZK-anon Reddit in that sense.
Yeah, and the other like benefit for that is like you don't like it's more of a community, right? Like right now, it kind of feels like there's these like overlords that like control like the main channels, versus like it's actually like a full community that's like producing and elevating content.
It kind of goes back to what we talked about earlier with sort of the birth of Farcaster and how important it was for Dan to have like an important skin in the game approach to like curating the initial content and users for the app. So I don't think it's unlike that for what we've seen with Anoncast, where it was like a solution just for short-term Sybil resistance and whatnot, and for people who really cared that the app does well. But it's nice to hear that you're thinking about, more long-term scalable solutions.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, ultimately, it's only been like, 3 weeks now? Maybe a little bit over 3 weeks.
Hard to believe.
It's like,
feels like longer.
Yeah. Things are just, I think right now we're just like trying stuff out, iterating. I don't think like anything is really set in stone. And also like, yeah, it's just like, we're just like, not just me, but like the community, we're just all having fun with it, right? So we'll see where it takes us.
What's your favorite feature that you've shipped so far? Because it's been amazing to watch you just shipping almost every day or every couple of days, something new. So yeah, what's your favorite iteration that you've put out?
My favorite thing is how much faster it is now. Like I think like it was way too slow before. It was like almost like 90 seconds to generate and verify proofs, and now it's like 9 seconds. And we're gonna get that even faster. So it should basically be instant to post very soon.
Wow. And that update that happened recently, that also made mobile posting, which I think it made it possible, which was a big unlock, I think.
Yeah. Mobile posting is definitely huge. And yeah, I think like the thing that's going to take a little bit maybe, but like that's being actively worked on is like a mobile app, because like ultimately like a lot of people want to post like on the go. Like I have a thought as I'm like walking or grocery shopping, and like I just want to throw that out there, versus like, oh, I need to like go back to my computer and like log in, and like by that time you probably forgot or don't want to post. So we want to make it more like in the moment.
I had a note in my notepad that was like bangers, and it was just like things that I thought of when I was out and about away from my computer, when it first came out and you could really only use it on a computer. But now being able to do it from mobile is a bit of a game changer. It's fun.
Yeah. So now the next step is just like making it faster, is like, and like there's a few ways that that's possible. Actually, I think like very soon it'll be like basically instant to post on mobile. And like we need the reason it needs to be like that is like I think the UX should be like as good as possible so that like it's more enticing to use. Like even like right now, like when I post, like it's like seeing the spinner for like 10 seconds is like, oh, come on, like come on, and like that makes me want to like not post because it's like I have to wait so long to post and like I have to keep the screen open. It's like yeah, any sort of friction is just like a reason not to post, right? And so we want to make it as easy to post as possible.
I'm a little older than you, so I'm old enough to have grown up through like the dial-up in my teenage years, dial-up internet. So, you know, I've waited for a JPEG to slowly load down the page in my youth. So this is not too dissimilar from that. But I you know, we're so spoiled for speed now and everything that we do. It's true that like ZK feels worth it for sure, but definitely a little slow. So it's amazing to see how much you've been able to scale it just in a few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think like the problem right now isn't like ZK as to why it's slow. It's the problem is like I didn't know anything about ZK before 3 weeks ago, so like I literally am learning, and so like right now it's like, oh, there's like a very clear path to making it very fast. It's just I'm like learning as I'm building this, so like now I like get how to like properly design it. So
I didn't know
yeah.
that. I was going to ask you if you had built anything in ZK before, because I know that like you're using Noir language, right? So had you ever written Noir before, or you had not done any kind of ZK before this?
Nope.
Insane.
Not until 3 weeks ago.
And you just self-taught, or how did you bootstrap that piece?
Yeah, just like reading examples, code, docs. I mean, like initially we started as like the original like version was like forked off of 33 bits, like Kagusha suggested. So that part was easy, but they had like their code is like a little bit like it's like a year and a half old now, so like it's not even using best practice. So I basically had to rewrite everything after we launched and like after I learned more about it. And the Noir team has been super helpful in like showing me best practices and stuff like that.
Very cool. What do you think are some of the best use cases that you'd like to see for Anoncast as an app going forward?
Yeah, I think like the biggest thing is just having some sort of verified credentials for posts. So like being able to attest that you are, say, a past employee of some company, or attest that you own some balance of some token. Because I think like these posts mean a lot more and are more interesting to like consumers, like not the people posting, but the people that are reading. If it's like, oh, this guy, someone with like this cred has said this thing, right?
Yeah, I made the joke at one point to like imagine coin fashions, but you could actually tell if these people were LARPing or if they really did lose a house value on Fartcoin or whatever they're saying they did, you know?
Yeah, that's like one of the next things. So I'm really excited for that. But
how does that work? Is that ZK TLS or something else?
I mean, there's multiple ways to start. Like we're going to start with like just on-chain balances, and that's not going to be ZK. That's not going to be ZK TLS. It's just going to be like normal ZK proofs of on-chain balances. But yeah, if you want to do like more interesting things around like past employment or like, I don't know, follower accounts or like maybe like your bank balance, like things like that will require like ZK TLS.
So obviously, you know, you started hacking on this as a contributor, an open source contributor, and there've been some other people that have jumped in and helped on the open source repo. If someone's watching this and they're a builder and they want to contribute, what would you say to those people?
Yeah, I mean, jump in. I think there's like a few issues that are open in the GitHub repo. If not, or like if you have other ideas, just like, yeah, open up PRs or message me on Farcaster, on Warpcast. Yeah, there's plenty of stuff to do, and it's fully open source. So
awesome. And for everybody else who just, you know, maybe this is the first they're hearing about Anoncast, maybe they've been living under a rock and they haven't heard about it. They didn't hear that Vitalik was using a new app. What would you say to them? Where can they find out more information about Anoncast, how to use it, etc.?
yeah, I mean, the best thing is go to Uniswap, buy 5,000 Anon and use out that, like just try out the app. I think like people grok it pretty quick if they just try to use it. But yeah, you can check it out on anoncast.org. It's very simple. You just connect your wallet that has balance and then type a message and then click post.
Awesome. And maybe we'll leave it off with just asking you, what are you most excited about for the next few months of building, whether it be an Anoncast or other things that are on your mind?
I think it's just a fun time, particularly because like prices are high and like bull markets are always a fun time, but also like the regulatory environment in the US is better. And then like there's also like this convergence of like a lot of interesting tech. Like we have like fast L2s like Base. We have smart contract wallets. We have ZK stuff, which is much faster. We have AI, which is much cheaper, like using LLMs. Meme coins. There's just like this convergence of all this like rough, like it's not necessarily new tech, but it's like tech that's being built for like the last few years, and it's like kind of becoming much more simpler and easier to use. And so like there's probably going to be a breadth of like new products that are like leverage all these different things. Like Anoncast is obviously one of them, right? Like meme coins, what's it called? ZK, and then also like we have this like AI agent bot that's like using like LLMs to like trained on like anonymous posts. So like there's like, yeah, it's just a fun time to experiment. And so like I'm just excited to see not just what like I build, but like what other people are building. And I think like people are going to build, like we're already seeing this, but people are going to build on top of each other's ideas. And so like you see this on like Farcaster with like token launcher bots that are launching based on other token launcher bots, but like with other like mechanics in built in. And so yeah, it's an interesting time.
It's like, hey dog, we heard you like token launchers, so we launched a token launcher with your token launcher.
I mean, it's the same thing as like on Twitter. There's like 8,000 AI posting bots now. Right? Like,
yeah.
Terminal.
Well, when we had Martin on here recently, he had a good insight about how like most of those are slop, and if you actually like read them objectively, you would mute them if they were humans, you know?
Yeah. But overall, I think like it's not just like crypto, but like I think AI people are having fun. I think everyone's just having a lot of fun right now, and that I think will lead to good products. And I don't think there's people that are like I see like drama-ish around like the AI accounts around like people saying they copied another person, and like even like token launchers like, oh, you copied this person. It's like who cares? Like just build, have fun, differentiate, and like honestly like all of this stuff is probably gonna die. It's just like something will emerge from like the ashes of all this, and so we're all just kind of building towards that.
I love that. Last question: what is the significance of the sloth?
That's just like my IGN. That's just my IGN I've used while gaming for like many years. At this point, I don't even remember like exactly why I even picked it. It's not even sloth; it's slokh. But like, yeah, it's just a random name I chose because I chose it like 15 years ago now, and I chose it because like I wanted like some short username that would be available on like as many things as possible so that I can be like consistent. And like I picked these string of characters, and like that made like nobody was gonna steal that. And so like that's just what I ran with. I didn't even think about a sloth at the time. Like that kind of like came after.
Well, you're certainly not. Certainly don't have the speed of a sloth. You've been shipping things at record speed. It's been awesome to watch, and I appreciate you taking a break from all the shipping to come chat with us about what you've been building.
For sure, yeah. Thanks again for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming, and we'll see you on an Anoncast. I'm trying to figure out a way.
You won't know.
Yeah, we won't see you. We will. Maybe we will. We won't. I was thinking it'd be interesting to launch this episode of the pod from an Anoncast. I got to think about that. I mean, it won't really be a non because it'll be on minted from my account, but it might still be fun to just do the launch cast from there. We'll mess with it. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks, Kartik. It's been nice chatting. Nice to finally meet you face to face, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks.